To another Sunday School Short. Today we're in Genesis 25 and 26, walking through the Old Testament and the Bible chronologically as it happened, as it was written. Like, subscribe, and share. Get in there with me. Hit the bell notification for when new Devos come out. Here we go. Genesis 25, picking up Abraham, after Sarah died, he married another wife whose name was Keturah, and the remainder of verses 1 through 11 there in chapter 25 speaks of Abraham's lineage. So again, a great time to get out an audio Bible, your Holy Bible app, or I use the Blue Letter Bible. Either one will read to you, and you don't get tripped up on the names and such as that. So Abraham died at 175 years of age. Isaac and Ishmael buried him in a cave, in the cave of Machpelah near Mamre, which is also where Sarah was buried. All right, then verses 12 through 18, again, a great place for an audio Bible, not to get tripped up on the names, get bogged down there on the pronunciation, is the lineage of Ishmael. And it says his people lived east of Egypt. And the last part of 18 says, there they lived in open hostility towards all their relatives, which was prophesied from the Lord. He said that, hey, he will, when he spoke to Hagar, the concubine of Abraham, he said, hey, Ishmael, your son, will live in constant hostility with his relatives. Meanwhile, Isaac inherited everything from his father, including God's promise of descendants. You will have as many descendants as the sands of the seashore, the stars in the sky, that type of thing. Verses 19 through 26, we see Isaac's twin sons, Jacob and Esau, born. He was 40 years old when he married Rebekah, okay? And then initially they were unable to have children. Isaac pleaded in prayer to God for children. Rebekah became pregnant, and then it says the two struggled within her womb even. And the Lord in the last part, or in the first part of verse 23, says, the sons in your womb will become two nations. From the very beginning, the two nations will be rivals. Your older son will serve your younger son. And let's see how this plays out, all right? And Rebekah first gives birth to the first son, which was very red. He had thick hair. They named him Esau. And then the twin came out grasping Esau's heel. They named him Jacob. Isaac was 60 years old when these twins were born, okay? Esau was an outdoorsman, a hunter, gatherer, that type of thing, favored by Isaac, okay? Whereas Jacob liked to stay at home, and he was favored by Rebekah. All right, one day Esau comes in. They've grown up a little bit. Esau comes in from hunting out in the wilderness. He's exhausted. Jacob is at home making some stew. Esau comes in, verse 30, and he says, I'm starved. Give me some of that red stew. Jacob says, all right, but trade me your rights as firstborn. So he's doing some negotiating, looking for a deal here, okay? Esau, what good is my birthright to me now? He doesn't care. He's just hungry, all right? So he swore an oath. Jacob says, swear an oath, giving me your right as firstborn. And he does that. Jacob gives him some bread and stew. Essentially, Esau here is selling the eternal for the temporal, or the temporary. All right, so he's giving up something of great value just to satisfy a temporary need. And how often do we do that? We have to ask ourselves this own question. How often do we take the shortcut? Do we take the easy way out? You may have heard this saying, choose your hard. Okay, it's hard to be married. Okay, but divorce is hard too. It's hard to be broke, but it's also very hard to live debt-free and to live according to a budget. So choose your hard. Pick your hard. That's what Esau just took the easy way out. He took the temporary versus the eternal. Gave up his lineage as a firstborn child. Chapter 26. Again, get in here with me. Don't neglect the reading. Verses 1 through 11, we see a famine come upon the land. Isaac moves to Gerar, which is where King Abimelech lived. And during this time, the Lord reconfirms his promise that he confirmed with Abraham, now with Isaac, promising him lands and descendants. Isaac lied just like his father Abraham did. The same way, he learned so many godly things from his dad, but he also had some of the bad qualities of his dad or of his parents. And I always pray, Lord, I'll take credit for all the bad in my kids. I give you all the credit for the good, and I just hope that they take any of the bad qualities that they see in me that are I just pray that they're just softened because of what the Lord's doing in them. But regardless, Isaac, he was trying to protect himself, saying that Rebekah was his sister. Well, Abimelech handled it the same way he did with Abraham, or similar. He found out the truth about it, and he made a public proclamation. First off, he confronted him, why did you do this? Why are you doing this? Then he eventually made a public proclamation. It says, anyone that touches Rebekah, don't do that. Don't touch Rebekah. So at the harvest time, it says, Isaac harvested 100 times more than what he had planted. He became very rich throughout this time. His flocks grew, etc., etc. And the Philistines became jealous of him. So Abimelech eventually had to ask him, hey, you got to move out of here. You're getting too big for us. Isaac moved away, yet there were still disputes over water rights or wells. The Philistines kept filling in the wells that Abraham and Isaac had dug, and their people had dug in this area. Later Abimelech comes back to him, and he says, hey, let's swear a treaty, or you swear a treaty to me that you won't harm me and I won't harm you, that type of thing. And 26 ends with Esau marrying 2 Hittite women who made life miserable for Isaac and Rebekah. Marry well, my friends. Marry well. Take your parents' advice, your advice around you. If people are throwing up red flags about that guy, about that gal, hey, you need to listen. You don't necessarily need to make the decision based on that, but you need to listen to red flags in your life, in marriage, and other things. God bless you. Like, subscribe, and share.